Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. My name is Christina. This is a reading for Libra, or if you're just feeling drawn to this message for whatever reason, then it's for you. The main focus of your reading today are 3 questions. What's your current energy? How can you shift your focus? And where is an area of growth? So Libra, I've already pulled your cards. And we're starting here with the bottom of the deck energy, which is abundance, success, and determination, which is a winning combination, right? It's like, I feel like you are doing a lot of things successfully. You're working on your abundance with a very positive, sort of determined mindset, which is bringing about a lot of success. Just starting that off, because I feel like that's almost like, well, it's interesting because it kind of feels unrelated to the rest of your message, but in a way, it really, there's a connection there that perhaps you're not seeing, because this is the bottom of the deck energy, and these 3 cards that I'm about to show you are the cards for your current energy, right? Where, look at the colors here, right? They're if I just flip these around, they're corresponding, right? With the green, yellow, and orange. And so I feel like your underlying energy, if you're experiencing a lot of success, abundance, positivity, kind of determined attitude, all of this like really positive energy, there's a correspondence to, like, this may be a side effect or a result, the effect of what your current energy is, which is amazing, that I feel like there's wanting to be a link there. And so the current energy, I'm going to just actually go through this before I go through the other, like the bottom of the deck. They're all related, right? So you have, the first card out was rejection, actually. And then you had illumination and rest. And so how I'm seeing this is like, I feel like you, Libra, have had to reject, or just like perhaps take a bit of distance or rest from a certain energy in your environment that for you was being perceived as being kind of, this was at the bottom of the deck. The 3 of Voices, the 10 of Inspiration, and the Devil, right? And this Devil's so interesting because the arms are up, right? It's like, this is what you were rejecting. You were sort of taking a step back, perhaps, or just outright, like, kind of putting up a boundary or barrier between you and whatever this energy is representing. But I feel like, and that was absolutely necessary, is kind of how it's coming through. It was necessary in order for you to get clarity, because I feel like whatever this energy was somehow adding a lot of confusion, or just like there was like something there that was creating a blockage for you, because as soon as you did that, it's like you took a rest from whatever this energy was to get clarity. As soon as you did that, there's all this sort of like abundance and success and determination that happened as a result of this sort of boundary creation. Right? Okay. But however, there is something shifting in that now, because you have here the mask and the kindness, which is interesting, because I feel like what's wanting to be explored a little bit more in this reading is this energy, the Devil, the 10 of Inspiration, the 3 of Voices, because, well, I'm seeing this as you today, with the mask energy of like taking the mask off, like removing that sort of boundary or rejection that you put up. Because I feel like they are coming to you with a change of heart, or just like more openness, perhaps, that is allowing you to see something about them that perhaps you didn't see before, is kind of how it's coming through. But anyway, so we're starting with your current energy. So you have here the protection card, which came out a lot yesterday. It was in yesterday's set of readings. It did 3 of them. It was a lot. But what I was talking about with this protection card is that the energy of protection, especially of like protecting yourself, is absolutely necessary at times. However, it does put you in sort of this hunch position where it kind of knocks you off balance a little, because you're anticipating a threat, right? And so I feel like this was a necessary position for you, because you do have the Hermit, which is perhaps what the protection was, of like just sort of withdrawing your energy from a situation or another person, or a certain behavior, perhaps, that kind of thing. Just withdrawing your energy in order to gain clarity, which I feel like you are receiving now with the illumination. And it's so interesting because you have here you have the star, which is absolutely that sort of energy of clarity and illumination. Perhaps also healing as well. Like perhaps there was but healing in terms of like sort of getting back on track, or like getting your clarity or your independent, because all of this sort of success, abundance, and determination is now coming through for you, right? It's like reconnecting to that energy, which I feel like perhaps you'd become detached from in some way. And then here you have the rebirth card coming out with the Ace of Inspiration, right? And I love this rebirth card so much because it's like having a physical manifestation or proof of some sort of vision or energetic phenomena that you were trying to manifest, right? It's actually having the physical proof that what it is you're creating is working, or whatever it is. And with the Ace of Inspiration coming out with it, it's like a re-energizing sort of new start, coming through with just all this like clarity, right? It's all this like yellowy green successful kind of energy. Like this is Ace of Inspiration today is absolutely just like all of this, right? Like look at all the colors of these cards today, which is incredible. And then what you have here is this wheel card. And if you've been following my readings for a while, like on the 2 channels, this is now the second channel that I've started. The first one I am leaving behind, but in that set of readings at the sort of tail end of that, a month ago, I guess, this card started coming out, and of course we're at the new moon, right? So it's like you are starting some sort of new cycle, Libra, that is going to unfold over time, right? It's like at that start of like I feel like for this, if you've been following along, that when that card came out, it was the start of something, and now it's kind of like you're at a new start, right? Like returning to that same point, but with more clarity is what. And I feel like it's also kind of like an ending as well, because you're ending whatever that blockage period was, returning to sort of your clarity and vision, but doing it again and I feel like there's going to absolutely be something revealed in this sort of cycle again as well, that is going to have another sort of paradigm shift, because that's sort of how this wheel is feeling to me. It's like you're at the start of this journey. By the time you return to this point, so in another month's time, there will be another sort of revelation or clarification or illumination event that will happen again in a month's time. Is kind of how that's feeling to me. So that's your current energy, which is really incredible. It's like you've done a lot of sort of getting back into yourself, that's bringing about a lot of success. So we're now going to be moving into how can you shift your focus, because I feel like with the sort of the mask and kindness energy coming out, there's this energy here of like, it may now be time for you to revisit that 10 of Inspiration, Devil 3 of Voices energy. That was what you like sort of blocked yourself off from, right? It's like you took distance from that energy. And what came out next was this combination of cards. So usually when it comes out in like more than 3, I don't take them. I put them back in the deck. But I took these ones today because the colors were really just drawing my attention as being sort of one picture, right? It's like they all want to come out together. And individually, sadness, energy. And so how I'm seeing these two is being like, you know, in like the story, the Pixar movie Inside Out, the sadness in that story, the representation of sadness within that story was sort of ignored, right? It was sort of put on the, like, not prioritized. It's like the main character was not recognizing the sadness aspect of like having to move and all that. But the story about sadness, the importance and lesson to be learned about sadness is that it does bring people together. And so I feel like there's that aspect here where perhaps there was an element here of like, you or this other person, or both, sort of not recognizing this sadness aspect. And I feel like that's what's wanting to be brought to your attention. And then you have here trust, mystery, and passion, which is so interesting as a color combination, right? Because the mystery, the purple, is the combination of the trust and the passion, right? So there may be this interesting, because the thing about this trust card, if you've heard me talk about this before, it talks about you and another individual being sort of separate entities, of course, but in any sort of relationship, whether or not it's romantic or platonic or whatever, family, that kind of thing, there's a third energy that's created between you and another person that's independent of both of you. So that third energy has sort of its own ability to manifest kind of thing. It's kind of a weird concept, but with this mystery here, I feel like in the middle between you, it's like I always see this as being like two figures sort of in opposite directions, like not facing the same way, not facing each other perhaps, and that causes mystery. It's like perhaps both of you had to sort of turn away or turn in different directions for a time to sort of gain your own clarity individually, if that makes sense. But now I feel like there's almost like the third energy is wanting to bring you together in some way. And this passion card is interesting because you have here the teachers. So these two cards are looking incredibly linked to me for some reason. I think it's just like the curves and the shape of the antlers. So I will come back to it. I feel like there's some sort of like shared passion or shared interest, shared goal, something that's shared between you that is similar, and that's sort of why you're being brought back together or being encouraged to sort of focus on this connection again, of perhaps clarifying some sort of mystery element. Or if it's I don't want to use the word mystery because it feels more like having to like solve a crime. I don't feel like it's not like that, but it's more so like just clearing up any sort of uncertainty that there may have been between the two of you. So you have here the one card, the oneness card, and liberation. And of course, oneness sort of talks about accepting that everybody is part of the same whole kind of thing. It's like if you were experiencing any sort of like hurt or sadness within the situation, most likely the other person also was feeling that in some way, right? It's all about sort of like reciprocity. There's no such thing as separation, that kind of thing. And with this liberation energy, because this is why I took this combination of cards, right? Like after this came out with the liberation, like look at how similar it's the red and blue energy. It's perhaps separating out. It's perhaps because I see this as being like the sadness as being almost like a container, right? Like there may have been, it's being liberated from sadness, right? Because sadness will maintain, if it's not sadness, it could just be anything that's associated with sadness, like loneliness, perhaps isolation, all of that sort of thing, like just low energy, that kind of thing. But it's a liberation from that, and perhaps having to do with passion of some sort, or something that you're passionate about. Okay, and the teacher's card, which is so interesting, because I used to be a teacher. I used to teach high school, and not for very long, it was like less than 3 years, but something that another teacher told me is that you can kind of see what kind of teacher you are by the students that are attracted to you, right? The students that sort of create a bond with you, like your favorite students. We're not supposed to have favorites, but of course it's inevitable. There's this sort of like connection that happens between a student and a teacher, right? And so you can kind of see what kind of teacher you are by the students that you attract or the students that connect with you. Because I guess that's supposed to reveal something about yourself, right? And so I feel like the two of you and this other person, we're pulled together because there is, of course, a shared similarity, but also the opportunity to learn from one another as well, is kind of how it's feeling. But I feel like for you Libra, it's like this is perhaps the energy that you're walking away from, the sadness aspect, right? Like the 5 of emotions talks about like grief, right? Like but grief, but almost in a sense of like not acknowledging it, or there's an element here of like almost like locking it away, or again, like in that Inside Out story, not acknowledging sadness, right? Almost like having like a toxic positivity kind of mentality where it's like there's no such thing as sadness, or like sadness doesn't matter, or that's not important, when it absolutely is. Because this energy card I often see, it often comes out whenever there's sort of a difficult energy of like the only way out of this energy is through it, right? So it's kind of like you actually have to feel the sadness in order to release it, kind of thing. So, but I feel like for you, Libra, whether or not you were in that energy of like ignoring this aspect in yourself, I feel like it was also kind of like with this devil energy, it's kind of confusing because it, again, with all the teacher energy, it's like my firm stance is that there's never sort of a one-way teacher-student relationship. It's always going to be both. Both people are learning from the other person simultaneously. So you are both the student and the teacher in this situation. But in this case, it's like you walked away from this energy. I feel like you had to put up a boundary between this energy because it was somehow, it was almost like pulling you into because it's like this liberation. It's like you needed freedom from whatever this was. So it's like, it kind of feels like if somebody else was in an energy of sadness, right? It's like you had to create boundaries between you and them because it was pulling you in, right? It was pulling you in, and that's why you needed to sort of remove yourself, is kind of how it's feeling. But I feel like there's a shift in that. It's like, because I feel like you have something to, like, now that you've gotten sort of clarity about the situation, you walked away because of this energy was such a powerful pull on you that like you just couldn't be in that space, right? And it's kind of like what you did instead was this 7 of materials, which is all this like abundance, determination, success energy, right? Like focusing on the things that you're growing, putting your head down, kind of just like doing your work, which is leading to success, right? All of this sort of star energy as well. Like, because the star that came out here looks more like clarity to me, right? It's like suddenly, well, because that's what the star comes after the hermit, right? The not literally, but that's sort of like you go into hermit mode in order to seek clarity or healing, and then this is what it is that you've gotten. You're in that state now, but it's actually with the 6 of materials perhaps having consequences or results in a very physical sort of manifestational way, right? So I feel like that's what you're in. You're focusing on this energy, which is really good, and it's putting you in the sun, right? Clarity, growth, understanding, all of this positive, but not in a toxic positivity way. Perhaps you were needing to sort of do that. It's kind of like faking it till you make it kind of energy, where it's like you like, yeah, there are studies where if you like force yourself to smile, you will actually feel better, that kind of thing. But I feel like it's now actually becoming a natural part of you. And now that it's kind of like when you, with Abraham Hicks is coming through with the message of like, you can't, well, I don't know why Abraham Hicks is coming through, because it's also coming through with the idea of forgiveness, of that you can't force yourself to forgive someone if you haven't done your healing yet. So it's kind of like, don't focus on that forgiveness. what you should focus on is actually just like feeling the pain, the hurt, and healing that. And then forgiveness will come naturally. So I feel like there's something here about the sun energy where it's like in sort of focusing on yourself, you've gotten back into this place of I guess, integrity and clarity within yourself that you can now more naturally sort of address or face perhaps this aspect, which may be an aspect within yourself or may be being actually physically represented by another person, is kind of how it's feeling. And because there's this energy here, the Three of Materials, right, which talks about collaboration between you and another, because I feel like for you, it's like you were focused on your work. You were doing a really good job. You're in an energy of success and abundance. But now there's almost being like another person wanting to perhaps not collaborate, but it's kind of like with this page of materials coming out next, I often see this as being a bit like shy, right? Like being a bit like timid, or like not wanting to make an upfront offer, but more or not offer, but it's like kind of like like a wanting to be like you, or be in your, it's the students that are attracted to you, right? Like this is you being sort of like this rose who is just focused on doing their work. And it's like there's a student knocking at your door is kind of how it's feeling, because they're drawn to this energy, right? You have the page of materials and the page of emotions, which is interesting because they're both page energies, right? They're both students. You and this other person are both students that are needing to learn something from the other, right? It's like perhaps one is in terms of the material, the other one is perhaps in terms of emotional sort of openness or something like that. But it's like it's both are incredibly sort of it's kind of like Pluto and Chiron, where it's like they both have such a strong gravitational field that they create their own system. It's that kind of thing. So perhaps Pluto and Chiron, there's a message here about like the wounded warrior as well. That might be relevant to you. But it's here. You have the Nine of Inspiration, which I was seeing as being sort of this liberation. It's like this bird coming out of the vase, right? I feel like there's such a similar, and also the figures in the background also have like a weird sort of pattern recognition kind of thing in it for me today, where I feel like you, Libra, have gotten to this point of knowing yourself so well and being such a strong figure or example perhaps of what it is that you believe in, or the work that you've done, or like just a shining example of success, of you're a success story in some way of liberating yourself from sadness perhaps, or something similar to that you now have students who are being drawn to you and are wanting to learn. And I feel like there is what it is that you are learning perhaps in this situation is how to maintain this state of the Nine of Inspiration, of sort of being able to stand your ground kind of thing, and not be pulled into an energy that you've liberated liberated yourself from in the past, is kind of how this is feeling. Because if you are able to do that, there is a lot of learning here, the potential for learning for you in this situation. But it's kind of like the first time it came around, you said no to it because perhaps you haven't reached this stage yet where you were able to sort of maintain distance from the pull of this energy that you've already freed yourself from is kind of how it's talking about. So I've been talking about the smoke and the candle of like how if after you've blown out a candle, after you've freed yourself from some sort of suffering or devil-like energy, if you put a lighter like about an inch above the candle where the smoke is still coming out of, if you light the smoke, it will follow that trail back down and relight that candle. And so I feel like there's something here in that energy where it was like, because you had just this liberation that you just went through of freeing yourself from devil energy of whatever sort, however it applies to you, the danger of relighting that candle was too fresh for you to be involved in this situation at that time, because there was still a smoke trail, right? There was a danger of relighting that candle if you got enmeshed in this environment. But now that the sort of the smoke has passed, there's no danger of sort of being pulled back into this energy. It's like now you can re-enter is kind of how it's feeling, or that's sort of like the focus is of what's happening here. So Libra, I'm gonna pause there. I went over my time limit, but I'm going to go into the extended. It's posted right after this. You can go watch that immediately. We're going to talk about where's an area of growth for you. I do have other videos if you're interested in watching. Thanks so much for sharing your energy with me, and I'll see you in the next one.